And then Vin Diesel pops up.
Vin
and
Diesel
welcomes
drifts into the scene, hits Remy Malek into a beam, and he's like, "Get in, we're going to space, mother." And then they just blast off out of there.
Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-hosts, Javier Ortiz.
What is up, my nerds?
And Ian Anderson.
some shit.
We appreciate your help going on the podcast. Go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button. Tell a friend about us. Go check out our website, whatsourverdict.com, where you can listen to all of our episodes. Sign up for our newsletter to get exclusive content and updates and pick up some sweet, sweet merch. Question we always ask, if you ever find yourself wondering if you should spend the time, money, or both on a movie. To help with that question, each week we put a movie on trial, discuss the facts, pass judgment, and let you know our verdict. Today we're reviewing No Time to Die. It was released October 8th, 2021. It was written by Neil Purvis and Robert Wade.
Neil Pervert?
Right, pretty much. Why do you think Anna de Armas was in this movie? It was directed by Cary Joji Fukunaga, stars Daniel Craig, Léa Seydoux, Rami Malek, Lashana Lynch, Jeffrey Wright, Naomi Harris, Ben Whishaw, Anna de Armas, and Ralph Fiennes. James Bond is left after active service. His piece is short-lived when Felix Leiter, an old friend from the CIA, turns up asking for help, leading Bond into the trail of a mysterious villain armed with a dangerous new technology. If you haven't seen this movie and you want to avoid spoilers, now's the time to pause the podcast, go watch this movie, come back, pick up where you left off. We'll see you in a week because that's how long it's going to take you to watch this movie. And not meaning how long it's going to take you to get to a theater. You'll literally be in the theater for a couple of weeks. So
It's so long.
because it's so damn long. Yeah, with that, let's talk about this movie. My biggest problem with this movie, besides the 2 hour and 45-minute clock time, is this movie is so fucking predictable from start to finish. And I don't mean just because it retells every spy trope on the planet. I mean, every time they would, like, from the opening scene, I was like, this is so insane, because we obviously know that I can't remember even the character's name, the Bond's girl that he's ready to settle down with, Madeline, is going to be like, this whole thing's going to end in tragedy. And I'm just like, this is silly, because you realize it's her from the beginning that Rami Malek's character saves, and then apparently doesn't age a single day because he's got scars on his face. I don't know.
He got shot like 7 times and fell off a balcony. How did that happen?
I'm pretty sure he had some sort of vest on, because he wasn't bleeding out of the ones in his chest. He was bleeding out of one in an arm.
Oh, okay.
But they never show that he's wearing a vest, other than there's no blood in the ones in his chest.
And no head trauma from falling.
To be fair, the mom also didn't bleed. So, and I know she got like straight up peppered with an Uzi or whatever. So
that's true.
Maybe she was wearing a vest too. I don't know.
Too motherfucking shay. I can't argue with that. Like, that's fair. And I even
Also,
thought that too.
This kid is a great shot under pressure. Man.
Where's the freaking kickback? That was like the nicest.
Oh, dude. Yeah, because she was like 8.
Seen, like,
right? She was like 8, wielding at least a 9mm.
Yeah, at the very I thought it was big enough to be at least a 45. So
anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt, but if we're gonna start at the first scene, those are the issues I had.
Sure. I forgot, because I even said to in my head when we were watching this, I was like, she was pretty good with that weapon.
Yeah.
Like, she handled that like a pro.
Didn't even flinch as she was getting shot at by a pro.
I'm a pretty big, strong dude, and I have a hard time shooting a pistol without it throwing my hands back.
Yeah. Imagine being shot at the same time in a small enclosed room. Also, that house is like all windows. How did you guys not see this guy coming from a mile away?
Well, they show a camera angle where the two of them are talking.
Yeah,
and you can see him walking behind them.
Yeah,
like, sure.
I was trying to think. I'm like, how often do I look out my windows? I'm like, often, like pretty often.
I don't, but I usually have mine covered, so it's not like.
Okay, yeah. When mine aren't covered, I'm looking. I'll look out though. That window was the size of the entire wall.
I don't know. Whatever. Well, and she's got some like panic room that just happens to not work in that moment. Like,
yeah,
it's convenient.
It's really inconvenient.
Or I guess depending on which side you're looking at. convenient for the sake of the story.
Yeah.
But I also think, I don't know. So it was just one of those things where, yes, he then saves this girl instead of killing her, which, by the way, she's under the ice and he sprays like half a clip at least into the ice right at her. One of those bullets is going to hit her, at least one.
So I actually had like polar opposite reactions. That was my first reaction. I'm like, how is she not getting absolutely decimated? But also, these bullets are traveling really far underwater. And there's plenty of tests that show that bullets do not travel well in water, right? So it's like, you got to make up your mind. You're either hitting her in the face because they're traveling that far, or just lean into the physics of it that they immediately lose velocity.
Well, and not to mention the fact that the ice had been breaking in that spot underneath her with just her weight on it. But he can walk and then shoot half a magazine.
Yeah.
And the ice is intact.
And she goes underwater and immediately swims to the side.
Yeah.
I was like, you live by a frozen lake in Norway and you haven't figured out how to deal with a frozen lake in Norway?
It's crazy.
I'll be honest. I was coming to this review being like, all right, I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to nitpick. And now I feel like it's open season. So I'm going to do it too.
Well, and I wouldn't, you guys know me. That's not true. I nitpick all the time. But my problem is there were so many things to nitpick that were big things. Like if it's little things, I let go of little things usually pretty well. But these are big things, like because the whole opening scene sets the tone for this movie, because without it, most of the big payoffs in this movie don't happen at all. But they both should be dead multiple times over in the beginning of this movie.
There's just so much to nitpick. Even if it wasn't big, it's every moment of the scene there's something to nitpick. Yeah. How do you have so much to nitpick by a guy who walks into a house and shoots a woman? Like that should be pretty straightforward.
Right? And you could have, here's the part. Okay, so spoilers, Rami Malek's character feels like she owes him her life, which in a way she does, but he could have just spared her life and still claimed that. That opening sequence could have been a 5-minute sequence instead of a 20-minute sequence, because it took him 12 years to walk to that house from the outside of that lake to the front door. I'm like, Jesus, like that's a half a movie right there. Just Seriously. Him walking to the house. You could have made that. You see him walking. He's at the door. Mom gets shot. He lets the little girl live. Even could make a comment about you owe me or something like that. I'll see you sometime soon.
Like over his shoulder as he's walking out the door. Yeah.
Leaves her alive. He still has the same claim on her life that puts her in the situation that she's in later. I don't understand why we have to have some dramatic fall in the ice. Everybody is a great shooting person and can shoot around everyone or shoot them in the chest.
Oh my gosh, dude. No one in this damn movie uses a scope. What's the point of having these things?
Well, half the gunfights take place 4 feet from each other, so you shouldn't need a scope. And they still can't hit. Like I thought I was watching stormtroopers outside of their damn costumes, because James Bond, it's like he's got a bullet repellent on in the final scene.
In that freaking forest, they're shooting at him with tracker rounds. So you can see where your rounds are going. And he just stands there and like slowly walks away. I'm like, what is happening? How are you missing this badly? You have a scope and tracker rounds.
Dude, they should have just let Madeline shoot him, because I'm pretty sure she didn't miss. She popped some guy right in the head. She killed, she shot Safin right in the beginning of the movie. She was hot. And I'm not talking about that in a physical way. I'm talking about that in she can't miss way.
Yeah, dude, her KD ratio is through the roof in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that the little girl was a better aim than everybody else in this movie, with the exception of James Bond and 007. And I'm not talking about the same person in this moment. Those two could shoot people from across the room.
Yeah, they're like 360 no-scoping people through this whole fucking movie.
seriously, like in the same wood scene that you're talking about tracker rounds, this dude's like looking through like 18 levels of trees and hitting fuckers that he can't even see. I can't even see him on the camera, and he's hitting these sons of bitches.
He does that in the last one, and I know it's a classic 007 where it's like you see him through the hallway and he turns around and like quick draws. But I was like, that is literally, he like isn't even looking, turns around, shoots, you just hear the body fall. And I'm like,
well,
this guy can't miss.
In that moment, and I'm sure Ian heard me, like he did that, and the movie's almost over. Well, I say that, but there's like 20 minutes left in the movie. It's the final fight scene, and he turns and does that, and I went, really? Now?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's usually the first scene. I don't need that here.
Yeah. Do you think when I had a question for you, because we kind of started talking about how is it Safin?
Yeah.
Safin. How Safin like claims the life of this little girl because he saved her, right? Do you think he planned on having her go and like make her career decision to be a psychotherapist so that she would one day be seeing the leader of this organization that he specifically needs to kill? Or do you think that was kind of just coincidence?
I think it was just luck of the draw, because she obviously like completely forgot about the man until he comes back in her life at the 3/4 of the way in the movie.
If I went through something like that, if I ever saw a disfigured person, I would be horrified. Right?
Sure.
Like,
every person that had a scar on their face, I'd be like, yes. Oh, fuck.
Me too.
No, it's funny because that's like a constant Bond thing. Like if you go back, like if you have a disfigured villain, it's going to be a Bond movie. You had the guy with like the diamonds in the face and then the big grilled jaws and big, bleeding from the eyelid and Casino Royale. Like I'm glad they're not shying away from the disfigured villain.
And pick your villain. Like everybody in this movie's a villain all of a sudden. Like what the hell? Rami Malek should have just been the villain, right?
Yeah.
And look, I love the guy that and I'm okay with I was okay with Christoph Waltz Blofeld from the last one, like being a target the way he was. But goddamn, we were in that prison cell for 25 minutes. Like
way too long.
Shut the fuck up. Like, and we all know he's gonna die.
I don't. Jesus. So maybe I missed something here. Bond gets like sprinklered with the nanobots in Cuba, right? And they go through this whole thing where it's like anyone who's related to this, anyone who's been Inspector is gonna die from this. Okay, so Bond is covered in this. We know the Belfort is genetically related. And then they go through this whole thing of Rabi's like, spray this shit on your wrist and then go touch him. And then
because he knew Blofeld wasn't going to be there. So the one that sprayed Bond at the big party didn't include Blofeld's DNA because he knew he was in prison. So it didn't impact him.
But it did, because Q takes the thing and shows the list of all the people that it killed and who was still left. And that was like a file. That was the file that the guy used to upload it.
That was, but he uploaded, what they were trying to say is that he uploaded everybody that was going to be at that party. Blofeld was the last person from Spectre that was alive, and his DNA was in a different sample that he gave to the girl. He knew the implication. Now, they never explain it, which is terrible on their part, but the implication is he didn't upload Blofeld's DNA into that big party version, which is why she had to go in with the one.
Because she didn't touch him, right?
No, but
Bond
touched her. Bond, where she sprayed he grabbed her wrist where she sprayed the shit on her wrist, which then transferred it to Bond's right hand. When he choked Blofeld, that's when it transferred from Bond to Blofeld. It was hot.
Because I thought what happened,
killer disease.
I thought what happened was what Javier was describing. So
I thought it was a pointless series of events if he was already covered in the stuff that was meant to target him.
No, he wasn't. He wouldn't have done any damage to Blofeld at all had he not grabbed her arm. If he'd left her arm alone, he would have been fine.
Okay, all right, never mind.
How did he
miss something? There's a lot to miss because it's 2 hours and 45 minhave How am I supposed to keep track of all this bullshit?
I'm not going to go back and watch it to prove a point.
No, believe me, it's. But here's the other problem that I had. Right, so they introduced this nano fucking technology nano disease or whatever the hell. I don't know. It was so overcomplicated. So they introduced this thing, and as soon as they did, I leaned over to Casey and went, well, he's not getting his happy ending.
Right. Yeah. Like you see that coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like,
when they're like, you can't get rid of it. Once you have it forever. I'm like, oh, okay, well.
And they like so ham-fistedly explain to you that anyone with that DNA is
like
gonna die
8 times.
Yeah.
I was like, I get it. And then they're like, I have your DNA. I'm like, okay, we fucking get it, dude.
Well, and you see him like he's supposedly trying to be sneaky with Rami Malek's character grabbing the hair and folding it up in his little little. I was like, Jesus H Christ. I was like, you fuckers aren't subtle at all.
No, they zoomed in on it on the freaking camera.
I'm like, come on. Now I'm about to watch another 2 hours and 15 minutes of this movie so that I can see that I'm right. Jesus. Yeah, it was bad when it came to that.
I will say the scene in Cuba, though, was fun. That was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Sure.
It's probably some of the best action.
I wish Anna de Armas had been in it more because she was funny as fuck.
Seriously, she was awesome.
She was amazing.
Super likable, too.
3 weeks of training, give or take.
Well, and those two, and we learned this with Knives Out, but those two have such great on-screen chemistry together. And Daniel Craig and Léa Seydoux, Madeline, do not. Like, when they broke up at the beginning, I'm like, I don't care.
I felt awkward watching them. And it
was uncomfortable.
Okay, cool. I'm not the only one there. Cool.
No. And I didn't like them in the last one either. Like, it just didn't, they're not believable as a couple to me. Like, I just didn't get that at all. And I would rather, I was watching him and Anna de Armas do their little chat, which was really weird. Like, the audio on it was really awkward. Like, I get that they were trying to, do, we're on radio comms thing.
Oh, at the end?
No, when Anna de Armas and him are walking through that party in Cuba.
Oh,
and they're they're talking through the earpieces.
Yeah.
And they made it sound like you're on a walkie-talkie. I'm like, why? I don't need that. Just let me hear the dialogue between the two of them.
Yeah. And then you're trying to filter it through the other wiretap thing that they had going on. I didn't love that either. Yeah. But I do like he falls from the second story, pops up, pours him a drink, has a quick toast, and then they go back to killing people.
Well, that part, that 30-minute segment was fun.
Yeah. Salud.
Yeah, it was.
And I did have some fun. The other part so I love Felix Leiter. That character is really fun. Jeffrey Wright's character, who's been in every one of the Daniel Craig Bonds. I like his character. And I enjoyed the scenes that those two were together. And I loved the Mormon joke that he made about the new guy.
Where'd you get the Book of Mormon?
Where you can't find the Book of Mormon.
I love a good Mormon joke.
Oh, hell yeah. It was great.
He smiles too much. I was like, he does smile too much, like a missionary.
Yep. And what a great death scene. That guy got the best death scene. Flips, just pushes the car over on top of him. I was like, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. But this does have one trope that really pisses me off. Why is it that heroes always leave the person that the people are after? Don't stick your daughter and your girl, Madeline, in a little weird grove of tree hole and then just leave.
Yeah.
Why do they do that? What good comes of the one person that has the best chance of defending them just fucking leaving?
I felt that same way at the end when he stuck him on the boat. I'm like, no, make 007 or whatever her 00, whatever number she is now. It's her job. You're retired.
Yeah.
That was my biggest beef with this movie. I'm not going to lie. Because you're the 007 now. And you've told me multiple times throughout the movie that you're 007 now. And then you're just going to kind of take a bench when it comes time for game time. No.
Yeah.
It should have been both of them going through and doing that. I'm pretty sure Madeline, she's killed multiple people. She can drive a boat. You just, turn that throttle and point the direction you want to go.
But that's I'm agreeing with JJ. If I am this dude, right? If I'm Daniel Craig's character and I just went through all of this to save my daughter and the woman I love, I'm like, that's it. I saved them. That's why I'm here. You have a 00 agent here. She can go open these fucking blast doors while we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
It doesn't have to be you.
No.
You have a daughter. Save your fucking daughter. It's not like, if he was by himself, fine. But he's not.
Right.
He's got arguably a more capable spy.
Younger,
more spry, who's been in the field while you've been fucking living on a beach.
Yes. Has the most relevant and recent experience.
Yeah. Has both of her knees. That's a good one.
Has both of her knees.
And she's wearing all of her tactical gear. Like,
yeah. I'd had one of the best lines, which is, you know what time it is? Time to die. She Spartan kicks that dude off. I was like, nice.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed her character. I think she got the short end of the stick not being in it as much. Because I also like the fact that she was like in the scene in Cuba, like she puts her hands up like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and surrender. And then shoots out one transformer and the whole fucking island's power goes out.
I mean, that tracks.
Fuck, but
it's Cuba. That makes sense.
They're not on the greatest grid out there. So since we're nitpicking again, this guy, Bond gets in this fight. He's going back up to the compound, and now he's fighting everybody. Like there's 100 guys with guns.
Grenades.
And grenades. Yeah.
Those parts made me laugh.
He throws one grenade back, and then they drop 6 of them, which good on him. Oh, we know where he's at now. But why did 6 grenades going off look like a half a grenade? Like,
dude, this guy gets blown up like 4 times in this movie, and he just rubs. He's like, my ears are ringing, but I'm good. Okay.
Not to mention, dude, the fight on the stairs. Like when they get to the stair part, there's 8 guys that are within 4 feet and shooting semi-automatic to automatic weapons at him. Not a single bullet lands. I'm like, come. And then he grabs a pistol. He grabs a handgun when there's at least a dozen AKs laying on the ground. He grabs a handgun and one-shots every guy in the stairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we're not talking about like untrained weird people here. It's not like he's fighting the scientists that were in the acid pit. He's fighting mercenaries. Like these guys have to be able to shoot.
Apparently Kevlar vests aren't part of their tactical loadout, just Rami Malek's loadout in the beginning of the movie. Because one shot, these dudes are down.
Which is terribly unfortunate because at least the first 2 or 3 of these Bonds with Daniel Craig, like that was one of the best parts of the first one, at least with Casino Royale, is the brutal realism that movie had. Like Bond gets hurt, he'll get shot, and he fights through it, or he gets his ass beat and strapped to a chair and his nuts crushed. Which, based on what happened to him in that movie, the fact that he has a kid is pretty impressive.
Dude, they don't quit, man.
That's a good one.
Because
he's still got swimmers.
Yeah, that's right. But it's like, and then it just went to full Bond. Like this movie was full of the toys and the gadgets and the unrealistic shit, and I just didn't like that. That's what I loved about the Daniel Craig movies, was they were just gritty and they felt more realistic. And this one just didn't.
Dude, speaking of gadgets, that EMP watch, he's just like, first of all, he puts it up to a lock that apparently its default setting is to unlock when it loses power. So that's awesome security.
Yeah. And
then when he puts it up to the dude's eye and blows it up in his eye, and that cheesy ass line that he delivers, I was like, I watch Mission Impossible for this bullshit, not 007.
Yeah. And not to mention,
I watch Jungle Cruise for that.
Not to mention, he zaps this dude's eyeball right next to his own hand or his own communicator. If that EMP, it only has like a 2-inch range, because your comms wouldn't work anymore.
I guess because he was putting the watch like right up to stuff, but it was killing cameras in the hallways.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He zapped an entire security grid on the bottom floor, but it only blew up the guy's eyeball. Didn't mess with your comms or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't understand the range on the. And they went through the effort of trying to explain it too. Like, how powerful is it? He's like, I don't know, kind of powerful. Is it? What does that mean? I'm like, why are we doing this if we're just not going to care in 5 minutes?
Yeah. So stupid.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what was good, because the acting was out of control good. Like, as much as I didn't like their relationship, Daniel Craig can act. There's no way around it. Like, he can act. And so can Leah Seydoux, who plays Madeline. She can act. Like, she was very believable in the movie. All of the main characters and most of the side characters were very good at acting, but man, they just had scenes in there that were unnecessary as hell. Like, you could have shortened or cut out most of the shit that was there. Like, and people are like, oh, but it explains how he finds out this and he finds out that. Yeah, but he could have done that in a 2-minute scene instead of a 20-minute scene. I don't need. And Bond isn't stupid enough. The man leaves this woman. He sticks her on a train and sends her away because her dad used to be Mr. White. Her dad's Mr. White, and he doesn't trust her because he doesn't trust anyone after Vesper. So they make that point. He puts her on a train. Well, I don't need Christoph Waltz, Blofeld's character, to go on a 20-minute diatribe about how Madeline's the problem or she's the one that knows everything, when all you have to do is he could say it one time. If you want to know about this, ask Madeline. He's like untrusting enough. He's immediately going to go to Madeline. I don't need 20 minutes of it. And it doesn't take Bond to get 20 minutes to get pissed off enough to choke you to death either.
Seriously.
Yeah,
we end up at her childhood home anyway.
Yeah. Which we were going to do because she told him where she was going.
Exactly.
He was going there whether that scene happened or not. And none of it, everything that happened would have happened without that scene with Blofeld at all. Because he goes there, they come to find her, there you go. Now she's got to tell him about Safin. So I felt like they were trying to do it to be clever, and it made a 2-hour and 45-minute movie out of what should have been a 2-hour movie. And I think in 2 hours, it would have been entertaining.
I'm not sure I understand the villain motivation, though, either. Because Safran's family was killed by Madeline's dad, who was a member of Spectre.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. How does that jump to let's kill millions of people with biological weapons? Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay, cool. I was like, what else did I miss in this movie?
Nope. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Same thing we all missed.
Yeah, exactly. It's not big enough scale to just try to kill Madeline and Bond's daughter. It's got to be the world.
Well, and I think that's something that hurt this movie is the continued pushback and buildup for 2 years, seeing multiple trailers. This is going to be big. This is going to be big. This is going to be big. And then finally seeing it, and it was long. It was big when it came to the time count, but it wasn't that, I don't know, large storyline that kind of blew our minds that I was expecting it to be with how much buildup there was. But
well, and it was anticlimactic because of that. Because there was no understandable reason. And I hate to reference a Marvel movie, but there's been multiple arguments about Infinity War because somewhere deep down in the corners of your brain that you don't want to talk about, a lot of us agree with what Thanos was saying.
Oh, I'll admit it. Yeah, absolutely. He was onto something. In fact, only killing half the world's population, I don't think really achieves his goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
My big thing with that was that bringing half the world's population back after 5 years is not a happy ending.
No,
it's fair.
Now we got a serious problem, which hopefully we see
starvation. You've got you got starvation. You got people that have married other people and moved on, and all of a sudden their kids and their husband are back. There's a lot. We've got people who feel obligated, repopulating the world, right? So they're popping out kids. Now we have too many people. Now we need Thanos.
But see, I knew Thanos's goal and I understood the reason behind his goal. This guy, I don't. Other than him just being a whiny little bitch, what the fuck? Why do you want to kill everyone? And I'm okay if you're just fucking cracked and you want to kill as many people as possible. I can get behind that too.
But he wasn't.
But what I can't get behind is this someone that claims to be vastly intelligent that has no explanation for why he wants to kill everyone, or at least the explanation he gives makes no sense.
Yeah, this idea of I just want the world to be tidy. I'm like, what does that mean?
Have you seen what this drug does to people? It's not tidy, my friend. It's pretty ugly and messy, actually.
Right?
Yeah, it didn't make sense, and I couldn't get into it. So there was no real sinister. The only part that was emotional at all about this villain was when he did exactly what we knew he would and made it so Bond couldn't be around his family anymore, which was the whole goal of this movie, which would have been more interesting if that was his goal to begin with. and everything else was a setup to get Bond there. Like,
yes, if it was like a vendetta against Bond, to trick him into getting there. Yeah.
Or if it was a vendetta against her, Madeline, because like maybe she escapes him, he like raises her instead of just saving her, you know what I mean? And so he has this vendetta against her, and he brings Bond there and sets all this up in order for her to never be able to be around him again, because being around him will kill her and her daughter. That to me would have given enough intensity and like drama to this movie to make me uncomfortable and actually believe in what this villain's doing. Now it's just whatever, you know.
And you can argue it's like he doesn't care how many people die, right?
Sure.
It just needed to be big enough to pull Bond out of retirement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fuck guys, how do we rewrite these movies every time?
I really need to start consulting you, JJ.
Somebody should be paying us for that.
No shit. It's funny that the reason that he wanted to do this was to have a more tidy world, but they couldn't put together a tidy script and storyline to save their life.
Yeah. And I even get like the vengeance against Spectre. Right. So if they made the argument, I'm going to kill anyone who's even remotely, I'm killing 10th cousins to anyone who was in Spectre, I'd be like, it's overboard, but I get it.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that from a psychopath. And it even lays the groundwork for, like I said, if it's all about getting to her and Bond to pay her back, it lays the groundwork that this is serious enough to bring, like you said, bring Bond out of retirement, get him involved, threaten to destroy the world, and have this whole thing set up to look like you're going to do it just to get this one man. And how sick would it be when they're laying in that garden pool and he's crushed that thing on Bond's head and Bond shot him. They're both sitting there basically bleeding out and dying, and Safin says, instead of, if I can't have her, no one can, it's, I brought you here, I've succeeded, I can die a happy man because she will be miserable without you, right? Like, I would have been like, this motherfucker was twisted.
Yeah, those are good villains, right? When villains, like, when they're dying, they're like, I won. Like, you didn't beat me, I beat you. Right? That's why like Joker is always a good villain. Because he doesn't care if he dies. It's like, I just care about beating Batman.
Yeah. And in one sense, if he dies by Batman's hand, he completely wins, right?
And that's what he tries to do.
Yeah.
In every freaking comic.
Yeah. Love it.
I just wish more movies would lean into the idea that it doesn't have to be big on a scale for us to care about it. Because you go back and you look at some of even, I know we've kind of mentioned Casino Royale a bit, but there wasn't a big world's going to end. I mean, there had like some, that we're going to fly a plane and crash this market and all that stuff. But it was a story about what you actually cared about, which were the main characters. And I feel like that's something that was missing from this, is if it is the last Bond movie, if it is all about Bond, like, make it about Bond. I've attached to him because I've seen him for 10 plus years on the screen. That the world, screw the world, man. Like, that's not a big, I don't have a heart. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I think you guys get what I'm saying. So I'm just going to stop.
They spent the last 15 years making you love Daniel Craig and his character of 007. So the best like homage to pay to him is to make a movie where you're invested in him and what's going on in his life, not him trying to save the world. Like, you didn't spend 15 years getting us to love random people on the planet.
It's fair. I do love the comparison in that realm to Casino Royale, because like you said, that was a movie that there were large scale things done to save one man's life, because that's all it was about, was Lashif's life, right? He was all about getting that money back so that he didn't get killed by these organizations that he wasn't even part of a main organization. He was just a money launderer. So it's like this one guy versus Bond, and that's what it broke down to. And then that connection of Bond becoming a cold-blooded killer because he fell in love and he got betrayed and then she died. So it's just like, why get away from that and then make it about a scale of saving the world at the expense of Bond, when you could have made it, like we said, oh God, that's genius, Ian. Well played, sir. It's a very good,
and all the elements were there in this movie, but they weren't the focus. I mean, he has a daughter now, he has a wife, and it comes full circle from Casino Royale to, him finally leaning into fully trusting again. It's unfortunate that wasn't like the main point.
Did you guys think killing him off was the right way to go?
I struggled with that, honestly.
I kind of wanted him to have a happy ending.
Oh, I absolutely wanted him to have a happy ending. But I had already, by the time I got to, so when they started to give away what was going to happen in the end, the hair, this stuff lives on you forever, I had already resigned myself to either he was going to go back to his island and never be able to see his dog. But then you can't do, and then I thought about that. I was like, no, because everything digital today, they could still have a virtual relationship for the most part, and he could see his kid grow up. He just could never have come in contact, which would suck, but it would still be happy-ish. I was like, so I know he's going to die because it can't end any other way and have people not revolt.
So, and here's just a minor criticism. In a world of nanobots, can't I just siphon my own blood out? Like, can I put clean blood in and suck bad blood out long enough until all the nanobots are gone?
Or use your EMP watch to short them all out.
That's what I fucking said. I'm like,
that's a good point.
You built a micro EMP that sits on your wrist. We have big giant EMPs. They're still machines. Fry the fucking nanobots. Haven't you assholes ever seen The Matrix? Come on.
That's a good point. I was like, I feel like with enough creativity, there's a way out of this.
You don't even need that much creativity.
Yeah.
There's fucking technology that should be able to render these nanobots useless.
Technology that we have today in real life.
I'm not even talking. I say The Matrix, but I'm not talking about The Matrix. I'm talking about walk down the fucking street to a science place. You could probably find the right shit to shut these fuckers down. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I was a little frustrated by that.
I struggled with killing him off. And I thought it was interesting, too, that they're about to go into this final mission, attack this missile silo and whatever. And suddenly 007 wants James Bond to have 007. And I was like, come on, you're just having that so you can kill him off as a 007. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It just felt weird and forced. And it was like, well, once I saw that, I was like, oh, yep, they want to kill him with the 007 title.
Yeah. And they tried to disguise it as like, she respects him now. And I'm like,
she hasn't known him long enough to respect him. Like,
yeah. And even if that were true, there are other ways to show it. Like, I don't know, going into a compound with him when she didn't have to
or letting him leave with his daughter and fucking girl and then not have him stay at all. Yeah. Like there's so many other ways.
One, anyway. I wish they would have endeared you to that character more, the new 007, or had her in the last 2 or 3 movies and start bringing her up so there was a relationship there. Instead of this kind of like, for lack of a better term, like dick measuring throughout a movie until one of them dies. I don't know.
Well, and they tried so hard to like make it like M was saying at the near the beginning of the movie, we need to find 007. And he wasn't talking about Daniel Craig, but they immediately cut to Daniel Craig because she's 007. So you're thinking, oh, he needs to find James Bond. No, fucker. And I was like, oh, this is so ham-fisted. We know he's not talking about him. Why do you even try to make it cute? Like,
so when they did say that they were reinstating him as a 00, and she's immediately like 00 what?
Yeah.
And asked like 200 times in the meeting.
That is fair.
So for all we know, he was already 007 and she got demoted to 004. Yeah.
So, yeah. And I just hated the end of this movie, like him dying, standing on top of that thing. And okay, so here, let me ask you this because I don't know. And my brain wants to act like I know, but I don't know. So he has to open up these launch bay doors so that the whole facility will blow up with the missile attacks. Don't we have bunker busters that'll like fucking destroy shit like 20, 30 feet into the ground or hundreds of feet into the ground?
I feel like a missile from an aircraft carrier in 2021 could do something to a World War II era bunker.
Yeah. And especially ones that like look like the goddamn Jericho missile from Iron Man that like split into pieces.
Like Patriot missiles. Right?
Yeah, like it boggled my mind that you had to have a bay door open for it to actually destroy the facility.
And maybe I'm being a little stupid here, but if this was a World War II era bunker, why did it have missile silos?
Do we not have missiles in World War II?
Well, sure.
Not like we do now.
Like
I mean,
that missile silo was not big enough for a World War II era missile.
Oh, okay.
I think weaponized, because this is like they're still working on like a jet engine, right? Like they don't even have that yet.
Yeah, they don't, like they're still flying prop planes.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we're putting Honda engines in freaking propeller planes.
The whole thing just because, like, to me, I'm like, well, and then like their whole thing was, if we leave any part of this bunker, it's gonna keep the production going. And I'm like, so wait a minute, this island is known about by the British, known about by the Americans now, known about by the Russians and the Japanese who are fighting over this island as it stands. Somewhere in these 4 countries that are technically on paper allies, let's communicate and say, hey, guess what? There's a chemical weapon. We don't even have to say that the Brits knew about it or helped design it.
There's a terrorist there.
We tell lies as a government every fucking day. You can't just
say the word terrorism, or like, yeah, how many missiles do you need?
Yeah, exactly. And
is 20 enough?
The combined might of Russia, Japan, England, and the States can nuke this fucking island.
Yeah, we sink that island into the ocean, and we're just like done with it.
Yeah, and Bond doesn't have to be anywhere near the island. It's just like there's so many alternatives to what happened that make more sense than him going, nope, I got to stay here and get blown up.
They're like, there's some diplomatic complications. I'm like, Russians love blowing shit up, dude. Yeah. How complicated is this?
Why do you think they're always the villains in our movies? So dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I wasn't sure like that. We blow up a lot of our solution to solve this problem is to like blow everything up. But wouldn't that just make a nanobot virus worse? Right? Like it's contained in a lab.
Like it'd spread it.
Yeah. There's like ships nearby now.
One more nitpicky thing, but they're worried about these supply ships getting there. And why not just blow up the supply ships and everything stays where it is? Right. And you'll have a bunch of time to like figure things out rather than just like, nope, let's shoot as many missiles as we can and we'll sift through the debris.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention this bay door is like 12 feet in diameter. Like it's like not that big.
But it being open is the catalyst of this island being destroyed.
That's the reason why Daniel Craig died. Is to get this thing open, which he knows it's closing. Why does he run on top of the bay doors, like where that like pool is? What was the game plan?
Don't know.
And I think a lot of what this movie suffers from is when they want a particular ending and they write to get to that ending rather than let's take the characters, put them in an environment, and this is how the story would play out, and then kind of moving towards the natural resolve of that.
Yeah, there's so many moments where it's like the path forks, and instead of taking the one that they probably would have taken, they force them down one road, and then they just keep forcing them down that road until it just stops really making sense.
Well, and we kind of go back to this story that we've kind of on the fly written for them in this podcast, but you could even take out him getting hit with this nanovirus that's going to kill Madeline and her daughter, and just have the dude had 9 minutes to get to the fucking thing, turn the shit, open the bay doors and get the fuck out, right? Or he had 9 minutes to get out after turning the bay doors. That's a long ass way, and I didn't see any other boats. So make it so that give him 9 minutes, or give him more realistic time, give him 15 minutes. That's how long the missiles are going to take, and have Safin come out and shoot him in the leg and go, sorry, dude, you're fucked, but this is the reason that you're here, is so she has to be without you. And then all of a sudden, it's not about a nanovirus. I don't care that they can destroy this island from afar, because as long as he can't get off of it, we still end in the same way, right? So to me, it's like you could have gotten there without all this convoluted, overly dramatized fucking story about nanoviruses and goddamn just have all of that be a backdrop. In fact, you could have done it to where, let me throw this twist at you. When we go to Cuba, have somebody there give Bond a shot of an antidote to an actual biovirus, and then they drop this bomb they leak this smoke in this compound that kills everyone in there, right? Now all of a sudden he thinks it's because it was coded to everyone's DNA. They make up some, this is what this was supposed to do. Let's say the whole thing doesn't even fucking work, but he still used it to bait Bond onto the island to torture Madeline at the end of it all, because she loves him and now she's got to live without him. I love this shit when I don't have to worry about trying to make sense of shit that doesn't make sense.
That would have been cool, because both the good guys and the bad guys would have won, right? Because the good guys, they achieved their goal. They stopped a biological weapon, or so they thought, right?
Yeah.
The bad guy won because he didn't give a shit about the biological weapon. He just wanted to make Madeline's life miserable. And he did that for A, the past week, and B, for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So he dies happy. Bond dies thinking that he saved the world. Well, no, Bond dies knowing exactly what happened.
Yeah. Which makes
Bond,
it even better.
Yeah. Bond dies with Madeline thinking that he saved the world. And, none's the wiser, except us, the audience.
I love it. So much better. And it's just so much more believable. I don't have to try to fit this shit in my brain and go, how does that work? Or why wouldn't they do this? And why wouldn't they do that? I go, no, you just got fucking played. And it was genius.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, so anyway.
I think we would need one moment though from Bond, because if our goal is to have this be like a Bond movie about him going out, we'd need something that like had him, I don't know, maybe not save the world, maybe save Madeline or something. You know what I mean? Like he sacrifices himself. I don't know what I'm getting at, but something that like redeems him from being played so hard through this whole movie.
True. Or like something that mattered to Safin outside of torturing Madeline. Like, and it could have been I'm with you. It could have been something as simple as like a monologue at the end from Bond saying, yeah, you've tortured her and she has to live the rest of my life, but she has a piece of me and her daughter or whatever it is, Like, I think there could have been a quick monologue that's like a giant fuck you to Safin that says, yeah, you played me and you won.
Oh, it could be like about family. Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you may think you're torturing her, but she has family or like
dirty.
And then, and then Vin Diesel pops up.
Vin Diesel drifts into the scene, hits Remy Malek into a beam, and he's like, get in, we're going to space, motherfucker. And then they just blast off out of there.
All of a sudden his Dodge Challenger flies. It's got like fucking...
As soon as I said the word family, I'm like, God damn it.
The Vin Diesel to
but something along those lines, like rubbing in his face that his family got killed and Madeline has a daughter.
Yeah,
right?
She still has family and yours got smoked.
By her family.
Family.
Comes full circle, baby.
Yeah. Well, I think we wrote a better movie than the actual writers of this.
Seriously, should this be the podcast now? We just rewrite movies.
Just rewrite movies. I like it. All right, let's rate this thing. I'll go first. Look, we've shit on this movie for the last hour, and it deserves it. But there were some good parts. I don't want to just leave it with this movie was the worst movie we've seen. To me, and I know that there's some debate that could go on, this movie was better than the movie we watched last week. So but it's just too long. It's too long. There's things that are confusing that didn't need to be there. There are things that are there that didn't add to the story. They were just pulled from previous Bond movies. I did find more of it than I care to admit entertaining because the acting was so good. And there were parts of the story that were interesting. But the saddest part is when the most entertaining part of the movie is a little like middle section that doesn't even include any of your main actors except for Daniel Craig. That says a lot about your movie. And the scene in Cuba is the best scene. That the whole Cuba sequence is the best sequence in this movie. And when that's the case, it's a throwaway sequence or should be a throwaway sequence with one heavy part. That's the problem with your movie. However, I like Daniel Craig as Bond. I'm sad to see him go, but it is time because you can't go anywhere but down from most of the things that they did previous to this movie. So it's good that it's done. I'm interested to see where they take the James Bond into the future. God, I wanted this movie to be better than it turned out to be. But again, I don't think it was terrible. I just think it suffered from delusions of grandeur and trying to make it more than it needed to be instead of keeping it simple and realistic and gritty. So I'm going to give this movie a 2.5. I think it's right down the middle. I won't watch it again because it's too fucking long. And the payoff doesn't make me feel good about the time commitment you have to give for this movie. It's just not there. However, I would watch pieces of this movie, or like I said, I would watch like someone take it and edit out the shit that's not necessary, like a fan cut. I would watch that, like a 2-hour version, an hour and a 45-minute version. Absolutely, because there's some great acting and some great interesting things in there. But most of this is just bloated and it annoyed me. So yeah, I'm giving it a 2.5. I won't watch it again. Ian.
I've been debating about what to rate this thing since it credits rolled last night. I don't know. It's a Bond movie, and this was built up to be even more like the best Bond movie. This epic conclusion, there was all this build up for it, and I think that hurt it too. And the fact that it was 3 hours and 45 minutes, or 3, it felt like 3, as long as it was. I went in with expectations kind of lower, and I think my expectations were met. It was an average Bond movie. Probably won't watch it again. I'll stick with my favorites, and kind of like you said, JJ, kind of curious to see what they're going to do next, or kind of where the direction's going to go. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add other than what we've already talked about. So I'm going to stick with right down the middle too, 2.5. Like, it's not a terrible movie. It's not. Like, there's a lot of good things in it, but was it what it was made out to be? I don't think so. So I'm going to stay with 2.5. I may or may not watch it again. If I do, it's not going to be a conscious choice. It's going to be something that's on, and I'll probably tune in for a little bit and tune out.
And what, you're strapped to a chair in an insane asylum
with your balls
somebody's
out,
hitting
somebody
them. Yep. Though you guys did bring up Marvel, and I had to say I felt like I was getting Iron Man's storyline where he has his daughter, goes and saves the world, and then so another little call out to taken from other movies, but felt a lot like
Fair
that.
enough. All right, Javier, bring us home.
Look, I think I agree with all of you guys, but I'm going to be a little bit more harsher on my rating, because for what this was advertised to be and the hype that it got, this movie sucks ass compared to what it should have been. Right? It just is not good for what they led us to believe it was going to be. And this is not a casualty of the way that the movie was made, like the acting, most of the dialogue, except for that. It really blew his mind. Stupid ass line.
He had to make a dad joke. He's a dad now.
He's a dad now. Jeez. Like all of those aspects, like even the fight scene choreography was pretty good, I thought. So none of that was a problem. I think it's a casualty of the storyboard. I like, it almost seemed like they just slapped something together, which is disappointing because we waited so long. I wish they would have taken the time to really think through the storyline. And that, like, you cannot get away with making a bad story by slapping Daniel Craig and Rami Malek and having a cool fight scene with a really attractive Latina, right? Like, you just can't get away with a bad story. So anyway, I'm going to give this a 2. It's not, all those things I mentioned are actually pretty good, right? So like, if that's why you watch movies, you'll like this movie. If you don't care about the story or the progression of the story or any of that, then yeah, you'll like this movie. But I don't even know what to say if that's your type of movie. So yeah, I'm going to give this 2. I'm not going to watch this again. There are better spy movies. There are better Bond movies. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'd say every one of them leading up to this movie is a better Bond movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't seen all of them. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit harsher on my scoring, because I'm sure there's like nods to other movies that I'm missing out on and stuff like that. 007 just has never really done it for me,
Sure. No, I've always been a pretty big fan of 007, with the exception of what's his name? The one right before Daniel Craig.
Pierce Brosnan.
Connery.
No, I love
Pierce
Sean
Brosnan.
Connery.
Oh.
Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, yeah.
Those were terrible. Not a single one of them was good. Like, that was like, they were worse than Mission Impossible movies. The Pierce Brosnan. Like, they were so bad.
But we did get one of the best N64 games out of that franchise.
That's fair. That game changed.
Wait, which one? Is it GoldenEye?
GoldenEye. That game
GoldenEye.
changed multiplayer game, like first-person multiplayer shooting games forever. Like,
I accidentally stole that from my friend when I was in like high school, middle school, or whatever. I asked to borrow it, and then I lost it, and I just never talked about it again.
That's funny.
He brought it up like 2 years ago.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I played Odd Job all the time just because you were so short. It was hard to get the headshot. Fucking run around super short. It was funny as I was listening to you talk about this, Javier, and that it really made me think about the fact that this movie felt like they went, let's sit around the table and say, what are some great ideas for James Bond? And then they went, we're going to put all of them.
All of them.
Movie. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And we'll find a way to write around putting everything in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it feels like. And I think that's probably was this movie's downfall, is they did not edit themselves. They just said, let's do all of it because it'll be cool.
Yeah, our last hoorah.
Yeah. And instead of saying, let's make a great movie, they said, let's make a movie that has it all. And it just really ruined it. So anyway, 2.5, and a 2, about an average movie as far as ratings go, a little under average.
And I think we're going to be the odd ones out with ratings.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think
I
this
really
is
Rotten Tomatoes have it at right now.
I think it'll be
It's like 84, 89. It's way out there.
Dude, We keep doing this. Oh, do we not understand movies? Like,
well,
are we better than everyone or stupider than everyone? Is what I'm asking.
I think, and we've said versions of this on this podcast before. Like, I think you change the way you watch movies when you watch them to give critique. Like, because before the podcast, like, I probably would have thought this was a long, really fun movie. And now I see the things that make it not good. Like, I used to shit on critics all the time, and now I still don't see all of the things that they see. Because, like, there's some really shitty movies that they're like, this is amazing art. And I'm like, yeah, well, pulling on my pud can be amazing art too. So let's just fucking not get into that. But what I have a hard time with is
JJ?
very sexual. But what I have a hard time with is I can't justify telling people to go watch a movie if I don't look at it from at least somewhat critical and just go, yeah, this movie's fantastic. Do I think you'll have a fun time watching this movie if you just go to watch action and Daniel Craig? Sure. But is it a great movie? No. So
I think that gives more value to movies that we've really liked, right? Like Cop Shop and
dude,
Shang-Chi or whatever.
Shang-Chi, such great movies. Cop Shop. Anyway, so yeah,
it's Nicole to watch that movie with me again.
So good. All right. Well, next week we'll be watching The Last Duel. Go check us out on our Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter pages, all at What's Our Verdict. Check out our website, whatsourverdict.com. Send us an email, hosts@whatsourverdict.com. Interact with us. Leave some comments. I finally got roasted by Alec instead of Javier getting roasted.
Finally. Look at him broadening his horizons.
I know. His latest comment on the last episode was a fun drinking game is, while you're listening to the podcast, is every time JJ says tickled, he's tickled by something, take a drink. You'll be shit ripped in no time. So I went back and listened to it, and I was like, son of a bitch, he's not wrong.
You say tickled a lot?
Apparently, I didn't think I did, but apparently saying tickled tickles me.
Wow.
What
I could have gone my whole life without hearing that.
I said it, I think I only said it once in Venom, but it was at the very end, but I said something like, oh, it tickled my fancy or something like that.
Oh, I was like, what, like tickled you pink type of thing?
Yeah, I'm so tickled. Like I say it, and I know I say it quite often, but Alec got me on that one. So leave us a comment. Tell us what you find funny about us.
Only positive things. Only what you find funny about us. No negative stuff. We're currently only accepting compliments.
Yeah.
And Javier will throw them back at you.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll give you a compliment or two.
All right. With that, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye now.
Cinemagic out.